I'm Andrew, and we're going to talk about taking your Python script tools and making them into web tools or geoprocessing services. I'm going to be using Pro today, so what I'll be publishing are called web tools. Terminology is web tool, but if you're using a desktop and using ArcGIS for server, you'll be publishing geoprocessing services. So there's a bit of a terminology kind of difference there, but essentially the same thing. Let's see. Oops. I'm going to try to time myself because I talk too much. Let's see. Okay, there we go. So let's get started with just an overview of where we're going to be headed here. I'm going to start with kind of data preparation tips. We're going to move into importing modules, so you can have your own custom Python modules involved in your script tool. Tool validation, which uses the tool validator class and how that works with your GP services and web tools. And then a few just kind of odds and ends, tips and tricks, things like that. As we progress through the demo, I have some data prepared and a few script tools prepared that will improve as I learn more about publishing GP services for my script tools. So let's just familiarize ourselves really quick with that. I've got some point data going on here, which has just some animals and some animal names. Oh, is it not showing up there? Let's see if I can make that happen. I can try this. That works. Okay, yeah, so I have Pro here and I'm using Portal. Just to get technical, I have ArcGIS for server as my federated server on Portal, so actually everything I'm going to be publishing today goes to server, but then it shows up in my Portal interface. I can see it from there. So the data that I'm working with is the animal data that you can see here. I have some animal names, animal types, and then their scariness rank. And it's my job is to report on the scariness of various animals. I want to figure out which ones are the scariest, which are the least scariest, and using my script tool to do that. So let's go over the basics of publishing real quick, and then I'll jump into the kind of more specific stuff. My first tool here is pretty simple. Should be able to see it. Yeah, I have a table, which I've listed here as just a string, hard-coded that path. Some field names and a where clause. These are all going to be used in my search cursor, which is going to iterate through my scary animal table, and it's going to let me know what the scariest animal is because it has a rank of 5. So as I prepare to do that, I want to make sure that I've created a script tool that will work properly. Now I don't have any parameters in that script tool right now. It's like I said, pretty simple. And if I run that, it runs successfully, and sure enough, I get my scariest animals. The tiger, python, and T-Rex are listed there. So I know my script tool works. At that point, when your script tool is working, you can publish it. Is it too soft? Okay. Is everybody having trouble hearing me back there? Yeah? Okay. I've slid the mic up. Is that any better? No? Okay. Let me try one other thing. How about that? Is that better? Yeah? Can you guys all hear me back there? Okay, cool. Just raise your hand if you can't hear me. The animals have been reported. My script tool works great. As soon as your script tool is working good locally, you're ready to publish it. That's the only real requirement you have when you're going to publish it as a GP service or as a web tool, as we'll see now. So once it's been run successfully, I go up into my Share tab in Pro, and I'm going to find a web tool drop down from there. If I click on it, I'll see all the tools, all the GP tools that I've run successfully. I got a lot. I've been preparing for this, and my very first one there is going to be the latest one that I ran. So I'm going to click on that, and you'll see the little wheel turning. That means my web tool pane is going to open up momentarily. Now I'm getting this certificate issue because my portal is installed right on the laptop, so it's server, so that just, I'm not using SSL, and it just wants to make sure I'm okay with that. Here's my web tool pane. It says share as a web tool, meaning that this is everything I need to do to share it. The summary and the tags needs to be filled out. Still can't hear it? Okay. I could just hold it like this. Is that better? I don't want to be too loud for everybody else out here, but is that any better? Okay. So the tags I have to fill out. That's required. I'm just going to make test as my tag. The other configuration settings, which I'll be talking about throughout the presentation here, need to be filled out as well, but nothing too crazy. In fact, I think this is all good to go. I just need a few properties for my script tool, like the description of it, and it should be good to go. As soon as it's ready, I can click the Analyze button. That's going to tell me if there's any warnings or errors with my script tool that would prevent it from being shared or uploaded to the server or to portal. Warnings means you can still publish it. Errors means you can't. You got to fix the errors before it's actually able to be published. And once it's ready, you can just click the Share button, and you should see that progress bar. Oops, if you got to have a unique name. Just do this. That's good. And we'll share it. And once it starts being shared, you'll see this progress bar at the bottom of the screen, telling you kind of what it's doing and what stage of the processing, what stage of the publishing it's at. It usually takes about 30 seconds to a minute or so. Everything's installed on the laptop, so it's a little slow. But we'll just let that go through. How are the mic levels? Is it better? Yeah, okay. So that's still moving along. This is usually the last stage before it works. And once that's done, we'll talk about improving what I could have done better with my script tool. And I promise this will be the only one that we publish. There we go. Okay, we're good. So once it's published successfully, you see the green box and you're good. And you can move on. So let's go into the data preparation part here. So that works. Good. Okay. Alrighty, so some considerations. You've got your script tool and it works great. You've published it successfully. That's all good. There's some things you should definitely know about preparing your data before you publish that'll make things just go faster and smoother for you. First of all the input data that you have specified as a string in your Python script is going to be consolidated. That consolidation is going to try to make sure that your script tool works by very kind of greedily grabbing the data found in any geodatabases or any data sets that you've specified as a string in your Python script. So a good consideration here is to make sure that you have sufficient memory, since that data is going to be stored in memory on the server, sufficient memory to actually publish this tool, and considering how much data is actually going to be utilized from this tool, and what you can take, what you can leave out, and what you're going to require is important. So think of Python as being kind of data greedy when it's publishing this stuff. Even if you are referring to a geodatabase that has, we'll say, hundreds of feature classes in it, but you only utilize one for the purpose of the script tool, the publishing process doesn't realize that. It's still going to go through and try to grab all the data inside that geodatabase to make sure everything runs smoothly, and then refers to it in memory, but makes the publishing process a lot slower, and also can be too large for the server to handle. So if you do have to hard code paths, if you're using absolute relative paths, a good way to do that is Pythonically, I guess, is to use the os.path.join function. The OS module is super useful for making sure that strings paths are formulated properly for Linux or Windows. So it's good practice just to get used to how that works. Let's move on to the second slide for data preparation. A good way around the issue of possibly having Python be too data greedy is to use parameters. And if you're familiar with script tools, you'll be familiar with parameters and how those work. I'm going to show you momentarily. But using parameters means you can force your client to specify exactly where that data is going to be located. They're not reliant on a hard-coded string path or relative or absolute path like we talked about in the last slide. So I'll demonstrate that now. We're going to be using the arcpy.getParameterAsText function. And let's take a look. Let's see if that works. Cool, okay, good. So I have a second script tool. It's going to be a bit of an improvement over the one that we see here. We're going to see a lot of the same functionality, but there's a few differences. At this point now, what I'm doing is using the getParameterAsText function, like I mentioned. I'm no longer hard coding that data path to the data into the script itself. And I'll show you what this getParameterAsText function does. It's quite nice. If I close these and open up this tool, these are parameters. These are this is the little drop-down box, which has every feature layer that's listed in my content pane, and I can also browse my computer for that data, for whatever data I want, and I'm no longer reliant on the hard-coded path. So Python's not going to get data greedy on me and start publishing data that I don't want to my server, or take a lot of time to do that. I'm also using the scariness rank. This is just a string parameter, and I'm going to formulate my SQL query that we saw in the last script with that. And in fact, you can see that right here. The scariness rank equals whatever the scariness rank is used, specified as by the user. I'm also doing something a little bit different here, which, let me talk about that in the slideshow before I jump into it, actually, just so it's not too confusing. I think, cool, okay. Let's talk about importing modules real quick, because that second script tool is going to do that for us as well. Let's say I want to have some sort of functionality that's not available in the script tool kind of root Python script, but it's something that I've added or somebody else has built functionality for me, and I want to import that into my script and utilize it. You can make your own modules as you would any Python script and import them. This data is also going to be consolidated, the same as the data in the geodatabase for the path that I specified. The consolidated data is going to have to be in a certain specific place to be found by the pro in this case. And it's going to search the script's root folder, wherever the location of that script is. It's going to try to find that module that you've tried to import, as well as the path environment variable and the Python path environment variable, which you can edit from your system path, or from your environment settings, I think. So the if your custom module isn't found there, you're going to have to specify the exact directory where it is found. And you can do that with this little trick using the sys module from Python, where you just kind of append the path that you want, that contains your custom module in the script tool itself, and then you import it after that. Note that the third-party modules, stuff you would install using like Conda or pip or something like that, they're not consolidated. They need to be located on the server in order for those to work. And just kind of this comes up a lot. Just make sure that there's no 32-bit versus like 64-bit issues happening when you're running stuff on a server versus when you're having the client run it on their computer. So if there's any dependencies there that the client's not going to be able to, we'll say, fulfill, that's something you'll want to help them set up, or something you'll want to set up on the server so that it works for everyone. So let's take a look at my second script tool code. Here we go. So we saw the parameters. That's great. No more worrying about Python being greedy. And I also have this right here. I have my custom module, which is located in this directory right here. And then that's going to I'm going to show you that module. It just contains a function that checks my rank. It makes sure that the scariness rank is between the numbers 1 and 5, range, of course, not including the 6. And if it's not, it's going to tell me that it found an invalid rank, and it's just going to use a default of 5 as the scariness rank to report back what the scariest animals are. So let's see that in action. If I open up Pro. Let's see here. So I'm going to specify I want my animal feature class, and let's do a scariness rank of, let's just do 5, and we'll see the consistency there. Okay, cool. So my message is printed out just fine. That looks really good. Let's try 6 and see what happens. We know that we don't have any scariness rank of 6, and I did get the warnings that I specified. So once I publish this using the workflow that I showed you initially in the beginning of the talk here, you should get the same results. Let's open up this toolbox. Now I've published this to the portal already. I'm going to open up this tool, and we should see a couple of parameters just waiting to be filled in. Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to fill in my animal feature class here. I'm going to say scariness rank of 5. I'm going to run it, and I should have consistent results. Fantastic. All right, there we go. And again, we'll just try the 6, and we'll just make sure that that custom module does still work. Yeah, absolutely, that's really good. I found that it was easier to use this right here than to try to, I guess maybe it's just because my computer's acting as client and server, but this made it really easy to depend on, I guess, those custom modules. So that's pretty nice. We have some validation happening with our script now, and publishing it to server worked fine, but we can do things better, of course. So let's take a look at how we can do things a little bit differently. Oops. So we've gone through data preparation. We talked about greedy Python. We've talked about importing custom modules and using parameters. Let's talk about tool validation. For those of us who are familiar with script tools, we know that the tool validator class is available to you when you're creating your script tools. That does work with your published GP services and web tools. When you utilize that, it's important to know that the tool validator class is going to run on the server side of things, not the client side. So everything that's, all the code that's kind of in that validator class, that's going to happen server side, and I'll demonstrate kind of how that affects you when running tools that have been published. Let's see. Also, it's important to know that with Tool Validator, typically we're checking the parameters that people have filled out to make sure that it's logical and valid. There's a finite number of input types that are recognized by web tools and GP services, and they're different than the ones that you would see from a Python script tool that you would access via Pro or ArcCatalog or ArcMap or something like that. So here's the list of them here. They're all in documentation as well, but I thought it might be useful just to put it in the slide. The other consideration you're going to want to have is that if your tool validator logic is giving you some trouble, or if the client is not able to really validate the input the way you want them to and the way that will help them best, it's good to consider maybe just publishing the script tool you've built as a geoprocessing package, something they can download, work similar as a zip file, and they can just extract that tool straight out of the toolbox, straight out of the geoprocessing package, and then the tool validator class should be there for them to utilize and get the right input going. So just kind of one consideration if you're in a hurry. Let's demonstrate the tool validator class really quick and how that relates to script tools. What I have here is again pretty much the same script. It's got a few more parameters. It also has my search search cursor set up here, like we've seen. I'm using a list comprehension to make things a little more memory efficient, time efficient. And then my output looks a little bit different, but it's essentially the same code. It's just going to be telling me what is the scariest animal available. But I'm not using a custom module anymore. You'll see that's gone. Instead, I'm using a tool validator class. Now let me show you where you can find the tool validator class from. Let's see here. So if I'm preparing my script tool for the first time, I could edit this, but I already have it good to go. So if I just open up the properties for that script tool, there's a validation tab here. And if I click on that, I get this tool validator code. Now, initially, none of this is going to be here, but I wrote this to make sure that my users are inputting the right data for this particular tool. And the way it works, I'll show you, it's probably just easier to show you, actually. Once I fill out my feature layer, it's going to give me some drop-down lists right here that weren't here before. And these are going to ask me to choose a field to act as my scariness rank field, my name field, and my type field. My scariness rank is here. Once that's filled out, I get a list of all the different scariness ranks that are available to me. I'll choose 5, it's the best one. And then I have my animal name, my animal type field. And once I run this, we're going to see very similar output to the last 2 tools. Same thing, telling me what the scariest animals are. That works great. And once I publish that, remember that the tool validator is going to run server side, not client side. So if I go to my portal where I've published that, find the toolbox, or the web tool for that, and open it up, I'll get those same parameters. I can fill them out as such, but what I'm not getting are those drop downs that I really liked. They're not populating automatically for me. Let me clear these out just to demonstrate that a little more clearly. And I'll just kind of browse to the data, grab it from a different way. Okay, and so that's filled out. Looks really good, but I'm just not getting those drop downs anymore. Just something to watch out for. The tool validator might trip you up a little bit, and it does work. It does execute, but doesn't work quite the way you might think if you're just publishing things as a web tool and then having the client use them. So let's go back to our slide here. That looks good. Tips and tricks. Cool. Okay. So we talked a little bit about this. Oh no, yeah. So the using layers for project data, don't use paths. If you can, prepare your server or your data store to have the data that's going to be utilized already, and try to consolidate all that into one place, one feature set or one data set of some sort. Just as kind of a performance boost type thing, when Python executes these tools from the server or from Portal, the less data sets it has to open, the faster it's going to work. And if it opens one data set to grab multiple files, multiple layers, that's going to be a lot quicker than opening 5 or 6 or 100 or something like that. So kind of just tying into what I just said there, keeping data server side is also going to be a lot faster. If you can keep the data that the users are going to need either in your data store or on your server, or even publish to your portal, things should work a little bit faster. Of course, trying to access data over a network is going to always be a little bit slower. So avoiding that whenever possible is just good practice. Try to avoid using different coordinate systems between data that get used in the same tool. Typically there's like mix-ups and sort of confusion that occurs there. So it's always good to try to keep things consistent with the coordinate systems. And then if you have data that needs to be written but doesn't need to be actually created, you can write things to memory. Of course, memory is a big concern when you're a server administrator, but the in-memory path, I guess, that comes with that ArcPy recognizes is super useful for just making kind of intermediate data that can still be used but will not be actually created at any point. Like a feature class would be created. That's kind of what I mean. So also, if you're publishing tools, it's really useful to know how to use the REST endpoint to access those tools. And I'll demonstrate that real quick. But before I do, just a couple of my favorite modules for interacting with these sorts of things are the request library, request module, which is not included with Python. It utilizes the URL lib library, but you can grab it from pip or conda pretty easily. I think you can also just download it from request site. And also the JSON module, which is included. You're going to be utilizing that a lot if you're going to be utilizing REST services, and you're going to be working with dictionaries, of course, if you're using JSON. If you don't want to do that and you want to work with the script, the web tool as like a normal like toolbox or GP tool that you would find in Pro or desktop, you can use the arcpy.import toolbox function for that. So let me demonstrate really quick just kind of what I mean by getting restful with these services here. So here's my server manager. These are the things that the tools that I've published, and then I can find those REST endpoints here on my portal. So if I go to the tool, the third tool, the validation tool, which had those drop downs, I can find the REST endpoint right here on the item page, the URL. If I click on that, it'll take me here. I can then utilize that task or utilize that tool RESTfully by opening it up and going to the submit job endpoint for that. And from here, it's pretty easy to just, I can demonstrate it actually, enter a JSON representation of data. Let's copy this. Let's paste it in here. Fill out my parameters as needed. Remember, these are the same parameters that I saw in my Pro interface. And then I can submit a job, and I'll get a job ID back. I can then, let's see, actually, this will be a little easier if we go with HTML. As it runs, I can check the status. It ran really quick, which is great. And I can see the same information that I saw in Pro. But it's now in a JSON format, so I can actually get that information just by making a request using the request library or URL lib or something like that. Super useful if you want to automate like testing of the services, or if you want to submit a lot of different jobs and maybe the Pro interface isn't doing it for you. You want to do it just right from the server. So super useful. I'm going to end the presentation there. If there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. If I don't get to any right now, I'll be at the Python island right out here. I think that's all I got for you. Oh, yeah, and if you're just getting started with Python, or even with the web tools, head to Google and check out what is a web tool, or Google authoring geoprocessing tasks with Python scripts. That'll bring you right to the Esri pages that give you a ton of information about these web tools and these geoprocessing tasks. Again, if you're starting out working with building your paths and trying to import custom modules and such, check out the OS and the sys module. You can read more about those at the Python Module of the Week website, which is an awesome website. It also is a book, I think, or it's going to be a book soon. Official documentation, of course, it's kind of a no-brainer. And also out in the lobby, my favorite intro to Python book, which is Python for Kids, is out there. If you read the first 75% of that, you'll be ready to start making some awesome Python tools. So that's about it. Thanks, everybody.